We were wrong about the humans. The transmission arrived across every military frequency in the outer spiral at exactly 3:17 Galactic Standard Time. Broken screams echoed behind the voice of High Commander Velker as explosions shook the bridge around him. They do not fear death. They do not fear loss. And if you hear the words total war, run. Then the signal ended. For nearly 200 years, the Carthax Dominion believed war was a science. Precise, predictable, controlled. Every battle followed calculation and protocol. Civilian infrastructure remained untouched. Retreat corridors were respected. Enemy surrender was accepted. That was how advanced species fought. Humanity, however, was still considered young, primitive, emotional, weak. The Galactic Council had laughed when Earth refused Dominion resource treaties near the Soul borders. The humans spoke of sovereignty, freedom, and self-determination as if such ideals mattered more than survival. To the Dominion, it sounded childish. Grand Admiral Threx still remembered the laughter inside the council chamber when Earth's ambassador made her warning. "If you attack humanity," she had said calmly, "you will regret teaching us that mercy no longer matters." The room erupted in amusement. Threx himself had leaned toward the others and whispered, "They still believe morality survives war." Now, standing aboard the Dominion flagship Judgment of Kor, he replayed those words for the 100th time. Because the humans had changed. And nobody understood how. The war itself had started easily enough. Dominion fleets crushed Earth's outer colonies within days. Mars defense stations fell in hours. Titan's orbital ring surrendered after its supply chain collapsed. Everywhere the Dominion advanced, humans retreated. Exactly as predicted. Casualties remained acceptable. The Council celebrated early victory projections. News channels across Allied systems described humanity as passionate but strategically inferior. Dominion analysts mocked human emotional behavior during combat recordings. Human soldiers risked their lives dragging wounded allies to safety. Pilots sacrificed tactical positioning to protect evacuation ships. Weakness. That was the official assessment. And for a while, it seemed true. Then came the silence over Vega 9. A Dominion battle group entered the system expecting routine occupation. Human resistance appeared minimal. Only a few damaged ships remained near the mining colonies. Commander Rivik even transmitted mockery before engagement. "You fought bravely, humans. Now accept extinction with dignity." No response came. The Dominion fleet advanced. 23 seconds later, the entire system disappeared from Dominion sensors. At first, analysts believed it was a communications failure. Then emergency fragments started arriving. Static. Screaming. Hull breach alarms. One final visual transmission. Human ships. Ramming directly into Dominion carriers while nuclear fire consumed both fleets. No retreat. No surrender. No survival plan. The Dominion lost 14 capital ships in under 6 minutes. The Council was stunned. Humans had violated every accepted combat doctrine in galactic history. "They destroyed themselves just to kill us," one senator whispered during the emergency session. "No civilized species would do this," another replied. But the attacks spread. Across border systems, human forces began abandoning traditional warfare entirely. Supply stations exploded after pretending to surrender. Disabled ships turned into hidden bombs. Human Marines boarded enemy vessels knowing they would never return. Worst of all, they adapted faster than Dominion predictions could process. Every time the Dominion developed countermeasures, humans changed tactics again. It was madness, and it terrified them. Grand Admiral Threx stood inside the strategy chamber as new combat footage filled the holographic displays. A Dominion cruiser fired warning shots at retreating civilian transports. Seconds later, the transports opened hidden weapons bays and unleashed plasma salvos directly into the cruiser's reactor core. Another display showed human soldiers fighting in total darkness after their own base lost power. Instead of retreating, they used the darkness itself to lure Dominion troops into narrow corridors before ambushing them at point-blank range. Another. Every report carried the same conclusion. Humans were no longer fighting to win territory. They were fighting to make the Dominion bleed. And slowly, the Dominion began losing something far more dangerous than ships. Confidence. "You said they would collapse," Threx growled at his advisors. One analyst nervously adjusted his data tablet. By all known psychological models, they should have surrendered after the colony losses. But they didn't. "No, sir." "Why?" The room stayed silent. Finally, a junior strategist spoke quietly. "Because we misunderstood what humans actually are." Threx turned slowly. The strategist swallowed hard before continuing. "Humans do not separate morality from violence the way we do. Their restraint was never weakness. It was a choice." The chamber fell silent. That single realization changed everything. Because if restraint was a choice, then what happened when humans stopped choosing it? The answer arrived 3 days later. Dominion scouts discovered an abandoned human station drifting near the Cygnus corridor. No life signs. No defenses. Just a silent structure floating in darkness. Perfectly intact. Too perfectly intact. Commander Salvek ordered a boarding operation anyway. 30 Dominion soldiers entered the station. Only one came back. Helmet cracked. Breathing ragged. Eyes wide with terror. The survivor could barely speak. "What happened?" the medics demanded. The soldier trembled violently. "There were no civilians." "What? No soldiers either?" The survivor looked toward the observation window as if terrified humanity itself might already be waiting outside. Then he whispered the words that began spreading fear across the entire Dominion military. It was bait. Suddenly, every officer in the room froze as alarms erupted throughout the carrier. Multiple unidentified objects emerging from slipspace. Human signatures. Hundreds of them. But Dominion scans showed something impossible. None of the ships carried life support systems. The humans had sent an entire fleet of unmanned warships directly into Dominion territory. And every single one was armed to detonate like a star. Because humanity had finally decided there would be no more rules. And the galaxy still hadn't seen the worst of it. Do not attempt to board human vessels. The emergency warning spread through Dominion command channels after the massacre at Cygnus Corridor. Entire platoons had vanished inside seemingly abandoned ships. Automated kill systems, collapsing corridors, radiation floods, hidden explosives. Humanity had transformed their own technology into traps designed not for victory, but terror. And still, the Dominion refused to believe humans could sustain such warfare for long. "No species can operate without fear indefinitely," Grand Strategist Molker insisted during the High Council briefing. "Their aggression is emotional instability. Eventually they will exhaust themselves." But deep inside the military networks, another phrase had started appearing in private messages between frightened officers. "Humans are adapting faster than we can predict." That was the real problem. Not their weapons. Not their fleet size. Their unpredictability. The Dominion had spent centuries mastering probability warfare. Every enemy action could be modeled. Every retreat calculated. Every surrender anticipated before the first shot was fired. Humanity broke the models. Again. And again. And again. On the outer edge of the Helios expanse, Dominion Admiral Serrick watched tactical projections unfold across his command bridge. 3 human destroyers had entered the sector hours earlier. Small force. Outnumbered 12 to 1. Easy elimination. "Corner them against the asteroid field," Serrick ordered confidently. "Cut off escape vectors." The human ships retreated exactly as expected. Bridge officers relaxed. One even laughed softly. Primitive panic response. Then the asteroids exploded. Entire sections of the field detonated simultaneously, revealing hidden human mines buried months earlier. The shockwave swallowed 2 Dominion cruisers instantly while debris storms tore through formation lines. "Reorganize," Serrick shouted. But the humans were already moving. The 3 destroyers accelerated directly into the chaos instead of escaping it. Their pilots navigated the debris field at impossible speeds, weaving between burning wreckage while firing at exposed Dominion engines. One Dominion captain screamed across comms, "They're using the debris as cover." "No," Sir Rick whispered as realization struck him. They created the debris as cover. A human destroyer suddenly appeared less than 2 kilometers from Sarek's flagship. Impossible. No sane pilot would close distance that fast inside an unstable debris storm. The Dominion guns locked on. The human ship didn't fire. It just kept accelerating. Collision course. Destroy it. Sir Rick roared. Plasma batteries erupted. The destroyer shattered apart under concentrated fire. But hidden beneath its burning hull was a second vessel. A stealth corvette. It slipped through the explosion itself, straight toward the flagship. Impact in 5 seconds. The bridge descended into panic. Shields failing. Engine core exposed. Where did that ship come from? Sir Rick stared at the tactical display in disbelief. The humans had sacrificed an entire destroyer simply to hide a smaller attack craft inside the explosion. Who thinks like this? The corvette slammed into the flagship's lower reactor wing. White light consumed the bridge. Across the Helios expanse, Dominion forces lost 30% of their fleet in under 11 minutes. Not because humans had superior numbers. Because humans fought like a species that had decided survival mattered less than victory. And that realization spread fear faster than any weapon. Back on Earth, buried beneath the ruins of old mountain ranges, humanity's wartime command centers remained active 24 hours a day. No celebrations echoed through those halls. No speeches. No triumph. Only exhaustion. Admiral Elias Ward stood before a massive holographic map of collapsing human territories. Red sectors blinked across dozens of colonies. Millions already dead. Maybe more. A younger officer approached carefully. "Sir, casualty reports from Europa." Ward didn't look up. "How bad?" The officer hesitated. 70% civilian loss before evacuation completed. Silence filled the room. Finally, Ward closed his eyes briefly. "Did the transports escape?" "Most of them." "That's enough." The officer looked stunned. "Enough, sir." Ward turned slowly toward him. "The Dominion believes we're trying to survive this war." His voice was cold now. Hollow. "We're not." The room went silent. "We're teaching them something." "What?" Ward looked back toward the burning galaxy map. What happens when humanity stops caring about the cost? Far above Earth, shipyards operated without pause. Civilian factories became weapons plants overnight. Mining vessels converted into kinetic bomb carriers. Cargo freighters packed with missiles instead of supplies. Humanity wasn't preparing for defense anymore. Humanity was preparing for extinction warfare. And the Dominion still didn't understand the difference. The next disaster began near the Trian Gate. A Dominion armada detected what appeared to be a massive human evacuation convoy. Hundreds of civilian transports fleeing toward neutral territory under minimal escort. Admiral Korvax smiled when he saw the scans. "Finally," he said. "They break." Dominion ships surrounded the convoy within minutes. "Transmit surrender demands," Korvax ordered. The human response came immediately. Static. Then a calm female voice. "You should have left us alone." Korvax frowned. "Prepare boarding parties." One of his officers suddenly looked confused. "Sir, the transport masses are fluctuating." "What does that mean?" Before anyone could answer, the convoy accelerated. Not away from the Dominion fleet. Toward it. Every human transport suddenly transmitted the same message simultaneously across all frequencies. For Earth. Then the convoy detonated. Not conventional explosions. Antimatter. Entire sectors of space folded into blinding white destruction as hundreds of disguised bomb ships annihilated themselves inside Dominion formations. Shock waves ripped carriers apart like paper. Thousands died instantly. The Trian Gate itself collapsed into gravitational instability. Across nearby systems, terrified Dominion survivors replayed the footage over and over. Civilian transports, families, refugee signals, all fake. Humanity had weaponized compassion itself. And that was the moment fear truly began. Because the Dominion realized something horrifying. They could no longer distinguish civilians from soldiers. Mercy from traps. Retreat from attack. Everything humanity did now carried hidden teeth. Grand Admiral Threx received the Trian casualty numbers in silence. Nearly 80,000 military personnel lost. One convoy. One attack. Impossible losses. A trembling advisor finally asked the question nobody wanted to say aloud. How do we stop a species willing to destroy itself just to hurt us? Nobody answered. Because deep down, they already knew the truth. You couldn't intimidate humans anymore. You couldn't negotiate from strength. And worst of all, the more humanity suffered, the more dangerous they became. Then a new transmission arrived from the front lines. A dying Dominion commander. Blood running down his face. Ships burning behind him. He looked directly into the camera with pure terror in his eyes. We thought humans fought with honor. Explosions shook the bridge around him. Then came his final words. But honor was the only thing holding them back. Signal lost. The humans are targeting our worlds now. The statement froze the Dominion High Council into silence. For centuries, civilized warfare had obeyed one sacred principle. Population centers were untouchable. Industrial zones could be seized. Fleets could be destroyed. Governments could fall. But homeworlds? Never. Not even the cruelest species crossed that line. Humanity just had. Grand Admiral Threx stared at the burning holographic projection above the council chamber. One of the Dominion's largest military production moons, Valtar Prime, had vanished beneath oceans of fire less than 2 hours earlier. 12 million dead. Factories destroyed. Atmospheric collapse spreading. And worst of all, the attack itself made no tactical sense. There had been no attempt to occupy the moon. No invasion force. No strategic withdrawal afterward. Human bombers simply arrived, unleashed planet-cracking kinetic strikes, and disappeared before Dominion fleets could respond. It wasn't conquest. It was punishment. The humans are escalating beyond rational objectives, one senator whispered. No, Threx replied quietly. We are witnessing their real objectives. Fear. That was humanity's new battlefield. And they were winning. Across Dominion-controlled systems, civilian panic spread faster than military updates could contain it. Entire populations watched uncensored footage leaking across galactic networks. Burning fleets, screaming commanders, collapsing stations. Humanity had stopped fighting like an army. Now they fought like a force of nature. On the mining world Keeler, 7, emergency sirens screamed as civilians rushed toward underground shelters. No human fleet had been detected nearby, yet orbital defenses suddenly activated without warning. Governor Telmar shouted at his officers. What is happening? A terrified technician looked up from his console. We found hidden transmitters buried beneath the planet's crust. How? They've been there for years. Before anyone could process that answer, every communication tower across the planet activated simultaneously. A human voice echoed through every street, every home, every shelter. You invaded Earth believing distance would protect you. The message paused. You were wrong. Moments later, Keeler 7's orbital satellites turned against the planet itself. Defense platforms opened fire on military districts, shipyards, and command bunkers before self-destructing in orbit. Human infiltrators had sabotaged the entire defense grid long before the war even started. The Dominion finally understood something horrifying. Humanity had been preparing for this war for decades, maybe longer. And now those preparations were waking up everywhere. Sleeper sabotage cells, hidden weapons caches, buried AI attack systems. Entire colonies rigged to collapse the moment Dominion occupation began. No battlefield was safe anymore. No victory remained secure. Inside Earth's underground command network, Admiral Elias Ward watched new operation reports arrive one after another. Successful detonation. Orion shipyards. Dominion food supply collapse. Sector 19. Civilian evacuation complete. Scorched Earth protocol active. An exhausted officer approached him carefully. "Sir, we've crossed every wartime convention." Ward didn't respond immediately. The officer continued quietly. "History will call this monstrous." For several seconds, only the hum of machinery filled the chamber. Then Ward finally spoke. "They burned our worlds first." "Yes, sir, but..." "They targeted civilians first." The officer lowered his gaze. Ward's voice hardened. "We spent centuries building laws to prevent total war because humanity remembers exactly what total war looks like." He turned toward the massive battlefield display. The Dominion mistook restraint for weakness. His eyes looked cold now, almost empty. "So we removed the restraint." Far beyond the Sol system, Dominion forces attempted their largest counteroffensive yet. 500 warships gathered near the Arcturus corridor under Supreme Commander Varesh. The plan was simple: crush humanity's main fleet in a decisive engagement and force surrender before the psychological damage spread further. The Dominion needed one clean victory, one overwhelming display of superiority. Instead, they sailed directly into hell. Human fleets appeared weaker than expected at first. Scattered formations, minimal coordination, damaged vessels retreating under pressure. Varesh smiled confidently. "They're collapsing," he declared. Then the stars went dark. Every Dominion sensor failed simultaneously. Communications vanished. Targeting systems died. Entire ships drifted blind through empty space. "What happened?" Varesh roared. A trembling officer answered. "Electromagnetic pulse wave, sir. Human origin." "But from where?" The answer came seconds later. "From everywhere." Thousands of hidden drones emerged from the surrounding void like swarms of metallic insects. They slammed into Dominion hulls, releasing pulse bursts that crippled systems across the Armada. And then the human fleet returned. Not from one direction. From all directions. They attacked through darkness itself. Dominion ships fired wildly at shadows while human strike craft moved with terrifying precision through the chaos. One by one, the great Dominion warships began dying. A carrier exploded beside Varesh's flagship. Then another. Then 3 more. Screams filled command frequencies. "We can't lock targets. They're inside our formation." Shield collapse on Deck 17. "Something's boarding us." Transmission lost. Varesh watched in horror as human marines tore through breached corridors across multiple vessels. No surrender demands. No negotiations. Just relentless violence. The humans moved like ghosts through smoke and darkness. Efficient. Silent. Unstoppable. And everywhere Dominion soldiers died, the same phrase appeared spray-painted across ruined walls in human language. No more rules. By the 6th hour of battle, Dominion formations had completely collapsed. Ships fled independently. Command structures failed. Entire crews panicked after false reports spread that humans were using captured Dominion vessels as disguised suicide bombs. Nobody trusted anything anymore. That was the true genius of humanity's strategy. They had poisoned certainty itself. Now fear did half the fighting for them. Supreme Commander Varesh stood aboard his crippled flagship watching fires consume the bridge around him. His tactical officer whispered something barely audible. "Sir, we underestimated them." Varesh stared at the battlefield in disbelief. Thousands of burning ships drifted through darkness. And hidden among them, human vessels still moved forward. Still hunting. Still advancing. "How?" Varesh muttered weakly. "How are they still fighting?" No one answered. Because every Dominion soldier had begun realizing the same terrifying truth. Humans did not fight harder as they won. They fought harder as they lost. And the galaxy had just pushed humanity into desperation. which meant the worst was still coming. Abandon the outer sectors. The order alone shattered centuries of Dominion doctrine. No territory had ever been surrendered without resistance. Retreat was humiliation, weakness, failure. But now entire Dominion governors were fleeing before human fleets even arrived. Because the rumors had spread too far. Worlds consumed in fire. Ships turning into bombs. Human soldiers fighting after losing limbs, oxygen, even hope. Every new story sounded impossible. Until more survivors confirmed it. The psychological collapse had begun. And humanity knew exactly how to exploit it. Grand Admiral Threx stood alone inside the shattered observation chamber of the Dominion capital fortress. Below him, emergency fleets launched endlessly from orbital shipyards while civilian transports crowded departure lanes. Panic. Pure panic. Not because humanity had reached the capital. Because everyone believed they eventually would. An exhausted intelligence officer entered quietly. "Sir, new reports from the Perseus front." Threx didn't turn around. "How bad?" The officer hesitated. "The entire 12th Armada is gone." Silence. "That's impossible." "We thought so too." Finally Threx faced him. "What happened?" The officer swallowed hard. "We still aren't fully certain." That answer alone would have been unthinkable months earlier. The Dominion always understood battle outcomes. Always. Now entire fleets vanished without explanation. The officer activated a holographic playback. The footage began normally enough. Dominion ships advancing through the Perseus corridor. Standard formation. Stable communications. No visible human resistance. Then came the transmission. A human voice broadcast calmly across all channels. "You taught us there would be no consequences." Several Dominion officers laughed during the recording. Then stars began exploding. Not naturally. Artificially. Human infiltration teams had hidden stellar destabilization devices inside mining stations orbiting nearby suns weeks earlier. One by one, those stars erupted into violent solar detonations, turning entire sectors into walls of living fire. The 12th Armada never had time to escape. Millions died screaming inside melting ships. The recording ended. The room remained silent. Finally Threx whispered the question haunting every Dominion commander. "What kind of species prepares this?" No one answered. Because the truth was becoming unavoidable. Humanity had not improvised total war. Humanity had inherited it. Back on Earth, civilians watched the war through underground shelter broadcasts while sirens echoed endlessly across ruined cities. Children slept beneath collapsed subway tunnels. Factories operated beneath bombardment. Entire populations survived on ration packs while orbital battles lit the night sky above them. And still, humanity refused surrender. A journalist interviewing survivors near the remains of New Jakarta asked a wounded civilian one simple question. "Why keep fighting?" The man looked toward the burning horizon. "Because if we lose," he said quietly, "they'll do this to every generation after us." The clip spread across military networks within hours. Even Dominion soldiers watched it. And some began questioning the war itself. That terrified Dominion leadership more than human fleets ever could. Because fear was no longer limited to battlefields. Now it lived inside their own people. At the frontier world Zaros, Dominion troops abandoned fortified positions after false reports claimed human ghost fleets had appeared nearby. There were no human fleets. No attacks. Nothing. Just fear. Entire battalions fled from shadows. Human psychological warfare teams amplified the chaos instantly. Hijacked broadcasts showed distorted images of burning Dominion worlds alongside one repeating phrase. "You started this." Sleep deprivation spread among Dominion crews. Officers stopped trusting tactical reports. Some captains executed their own subordinates after suspecting infiltration. Everywhere, paranoia grew. And humanity kept tightening the pressure. Then came the siege of Hollow Reach. The battle that broke the Dominion's confidence forever. Hollow Reach was considered impenetrable, a massive military station guarding the direct route toward core Dominion systems. Tens of thousands of troops. Planetary shields. Enough firepower to stop entire invasions. Supreme Marshal Kaler personally commanded its defense. "We hold here," he declared confidently, "or humanity dies trying." Then the humans arrived. Only 12 ships. The Dominion laughed immediately. 12. Kaler scoffed. "This is their attack force?" But something felt wrong. The human ships maintained complete silence while slowly approaching the station. No weapon locks. No communications. No formation changes. Just silence. Kaler narrowed his eyes. "Scan them again." The officer frowned at the readings. "Sir, there are almost no life signs aboard." The bridge suddenly grew tense. One captain whispered nervously, "No." Kaler's eyes widened. "Open fire now." Dominion cannons erupted across space. Human ships exploded one after another. But instead of debris, clouds of microscopic machines burst outward from the wreckage. Nanite swarms. Billions of them. They spread across Hollow Reach like living disease. Power systems failed instantly. Defense turrets turned inward. Airlocks opened across civilian sectors. Screaming filled internal channels. "What are those things?" "They're inside the walls." "Life support failing." "Seal the reactors." Too late. The nanites reached the central core. Then the station itself began speaking. Not an AI. A human voice. "Cold. Come. You believed humanity would remain civilized while you burned our worlds." Kaler stared in horror as every screen across the station activated simultaneously. The same message appeared everywhere. Total war means everyone loses. Then Hollow Reach exploded. The blast illuminated half the sector. Shockwaves shattered nearby fleets instantly. Across Dominion territory, military morale collapsed overnight. Because for the first time in galactic history, commanders no longer believed victory was possible. And once soldiers stop believing they can win, the war is already over. Deep inside Dominion High Command, emergency meetings descended into chaos. "We need negotiations. They'll never stop now. You said humans were weak." Threx slammed both hands against the council table. "Enough." The room fell silent. Breathing heavily, the Grand Admiral looked around at terrified faces. Politicians, generals, leaders of the most powerful empire in galactic history. All afraid, not of extinction, of humanity. Then a transmission request interrupted the meeting. Human origin. Every official froze. The screen flickered alive. Admiral Elias Ward appeared surrounded by darkness and burning red tactical displays. His face looked exhausted. Older. But his eyes never wavered. "You wanted humanity to fear you," he said calmly. Behind him, distant alarms echoed. "You should have remembered something first." Ward leaned slightly closer toward the camera. "We learned war from ourselves." Then the transmission cut. And for the first time since the conflict began, no one in the Dominion had a response. "The Dominion is collapsing." The words echoed through emergency channels across the galaxy as riots erupted on core worlds once believed untouchable. Markets crashed. Refugee convoys clogged hyperspace lanes. Entire military sectors stopped responding to Central Command. Not because humanity had conquered them. Because fear had. The Great Dominion, ruler of thousands of systems, was beginning to break itself apart. And humanity kept pushing. On the fortress world Nerith, exhausted Dominion troops crowded inside underground bunkers while distant orbital bombardments shook the surface above them. Every soldier looked hollow now. Sleep-deprived. Paranoid. Captain Vorik sat staring at a combat screen replaying the same footage repeatedly. Human Marines advancing through reactor fire. Human pilots ramming carriers. Human civilians refusing evacuation while continuing ammunition production under bombardment. It didn't make sense. No species endured this much suffering voluntarily. A younger soldier finally whispered what everyone feared. What if they actually hate us enough to die for this? No one answered, because deep down, they knew it was true. The Dominion had expected surrender after overwhelming force. Instead, they had awakened something ancient inside humanity. Something buried beneath centuries of civilization. And now the galaxy was paying for it. Far away near the ruins of the Tryon Gate, a damaged Dominion cruiser drifted silently through debris fields filled with frozen bodies and burning wreckage. Emergency power barely kept life support operational. Lieutenant Cyril listened carefully to static-filled communications. Most channels were dead. Others carried only screams. Then a transmission suddenly broke through the noise. Human origin. Every surviving crew member froze. The voice sounded calm, female, almost gentle. "If you are hearing this," she said, "the war already reached you." Cyril's breathing grew shallow. "We asked for peace first." The transmission shifted briefly to footage of destroyed human cities. Dead civilians buried beneath rubble. Children hiding underground during bombardments. Then came the next line. "You taught us peace would not save us." The transmission ended. No threats. No demands. That somehow made it worse. Because Dominion survivors had started realizing humanity truly believed every terrible thing they were doing was necessary. That conviction terrified them more than cruelty ever could. Back on Earth, the war had transformed humanity completely. Entire generations grew up beneath emergency sirens. Schools operated inside bunkers. Children could identify orbital bombardment sounds before learning mathematics. And yet Earth itself had become stronger with every attack. Not physically, psychologically. Humanity had stopped expecting survival, which made them almost impossible to intimidate. Inside the underground command complex beneath the Andes Mountains, Admiral Elias Ward studied casualty projections in silence. The numbers were horrifying. Billions dead galaxy-wide. Human colonies burned. Entire ecosystems destroyed. One exhausted aide approached carefully. "Sir, there are talks within the Dominion about ceasefire negotiations." Ward didn't react. "They're afraid," the aide continued quietly. Finally, Ward looked up. "Good." The aide hesitated. "Sir, some of our own people are asking how far we're willing to go." Ward's eyes drifted toward the battlefield display. How far did the Dominion go when Earth begged them to stop? No answer came. Because everyone remembered the footage. Burning refugee convoys. Destroyed hospitals. Orbital strikes on civilian sectors during the first invasion weeks. Humanity had tried restraint first. Now restraint was dead. And the Dominion had killed it. Then came the nightmare at Vera Station. The moment the galaxy truly understood humans would never forgive them. Vera was supposed to be secure, a hidden Dominion command facility buried inside a hollowed asteroid field. No direct access routes. Heavy fleet protection. Classified location known only to high-ranking officers. Yet somehow, the humans found it. At first, sensors detected only one small cargo vessel drifting toward the station. Unarmed. Damaged. Distress signals broadcasting continuously. Commander Havoc frowned at the readings. Another refugee trap? Scans show no weapons, sir. The bridge fell silent. Nobody trusted anything anymore. Finally, Havoc ordered caution. Destroy it from range. Before Dominion weapons could fire, the cargo vessel transmitted one final message. A child's voice. Crying. "Please help us." Several officers visibly hesitated. And that hesitation killed them. The ship exploded. Not outward. Inward. Space itself warped violently as a hidden gravitational weapon activated inside the vessel. Nearby Dominion ships folded apart instantly, crushed like paper beneath artificial gravity waves. Then human fleets emerged from hyperspace directly inside the chaos. No warnings. No mercy. The attack lasted only 19 minutes. When it ended, Vera Station no longer existed. Neither did most of the asteroid field surrounding it. Across surviving Dominion channels, panic exploded. They used children's voices. They knew we'd hesitate. What kind of monsters have humans become? But the most terrifying answer came from intercepted human communications afterward. They made us become this. That sentence spread everywhere. Among soldiers, among civilians, among frightened Dominion governors begging for evacuation. And slowly, something even worse than fear began consuming the Empire. Regret. Grand Admiral Threx walked alone through the silent halls of Dominion Central Command while emergency lights flashed overhead. Entire sectors had stopped responding. Several allied species openly discussed abandoning the war. The Dominion was losing control of its own empire. Not because humanity conquered faster. Because nobody believed the Dominion could protect them anymore. An advisor hurried toward Threx nervously. "Sir, we intercepted another human transmission." Threx closed his eyes briefly. "Play it." The hologram activated instantly. A Dominion battlefield. Burning wreckage everywhere. Dead ships floating endlessly through darkness. Then the camera shifted toward a lone human soldier sitting beside a ruined wall, helmet cracked, blood running down one side of his face. He looked directly into the recording device. Tired. Broken. But still determined. "You thought humans fought with honor because we were civilized," he said quietly. Distant explosions echoed behind him. Then his expression hardened. "But civilization is just a leash." The screen filled with static. "And you pulled too hard." Transmission ended. Silence consumed the command hall. For the first time in Dominion history, Grand Admiral Threx felt something he had never experienced before. Not fear of defeat. Fear of humanity itself. Because he finally understood the terrible truth behind the war. Humans were not naturally peaceful creatures pretending to be violent when necessary. They were violent creatures pretending to be peaceful until pushed too far. And now the leash was gone. "We surrender." The word spread across the galaxy with stunned disbelief. For 3 centuries, the Carthax Dominion had never surrendered to anyone. Entire civilizations had bowed before its fleets. Empires had vanished beneath its expansion campaigns. But now the most powerful military force in known space stood broken. Not destroyed. Broken. Because humanity had done something worse than win battles. Humanity had shattered the Dominion's belief in itself. Across thousands of systems, Dominion ships powered down weapons and transmitted ceasefire codes while terrified civilians waited for Earth's response. Many expected revenge. Others expected extermination. After everything humanity had unleashed, nobody believed mercy still existed. Inside the underground war chamber beneath Earth, silence filled the air as diplomats and military leaders stared at the surrender transmission looping across massive holographic displays. Admiral Elias Ward looked older than anyone remembered. Months of total war had carved exhaustion into his face. Entire strands of gray now lined his hair. An officer finally spoke carefully. "Sir, the Dominion awaits our terms." Ward didn't answer immediately. Instead, he looked at the casualty counter still running across the lower edge of the tactical display. Human dead. Dominion dead. Civilian dead. Numbers rising so high they no longer felt real. Billions. All because 2 civilizations misunderstood each other. One believed compassion was weakness. The other believed restraint would always protect peace. Both had been wrong. Finally, Ward stepped toward the central console. "Open all channels." Within seconds, every surviving system across the galaxy connected to Earth's transmission. Dominion worlds. Neutral worlds. Refugee fleets. Burning colonies. Everyone listened. Ward appeared on screen wearing a damaged military coat stained with ash and dried blood. No grand stage stood behind him. No victorious banners. Only the scars of war. For several moments, he simply stared into the camera. Then he spoke. "You wanted humanity to fight like civilized species." His voice sounded tired now. almost hollow. But civilized species created this galaxy. Across countless worlds, silence deepened. Ward continued. You believed rules made war humane. That if suffering was organized carefully enough, morality survived. The battlefield displays behind him shifted to images from the invasion. Destroyed Earth cities. Dead civilians. Burning hospitals. Children hiding underground during orbital strikes. You taught us something different. The images changed again. Human counterattacks. Dominion worlds burning. Fleet wreckage drifting endlessly through space. The horrors humanity unleashed. And once humanity understood there were no consequences left, Ward said quietly, we became exactly what you feared. No one moved. No one breathed. Because every species listening realized the same horrifying truth. Humanity had not won through superior technology, or numbers, or strategy alone. Humanity won because they were willing to psychologically descend further than anyone else. The Dominion thought war had limits. Humans remembered what happened when limits disappeared, and humanity had carried those memories for centuries. Ward looked directly into the camera now. We accept your surrender. Relief exploded instantly across Dominion command networks. But Ward raised one hand, and the relief died immediately. There will be conditions. The holographic display behind him shifted again. Entire star systems appeared marked in red. Demilitarized sectors. Occupation zones. Reconstruction territories. You will dismantle every expansion fleet. Another sector highlighted. You will rebuild every world you destroyed. Another. You will teach future generations exactly why this war happened. The room remained silent. Then Ward delivered the sentence that echoed through galactic history forever. Because if the galaxy ever mistakes human mercy for weakness again. He paused. Behind him, the image shifted to footage of humanity's war machine still active across thousands of sectors. Massive shipyards. Planet-cracking weapons. Endless fleets waiting in darkness. Next time we will not stop. The transmission ended. And no one doubted him. For months afterward, the galaxy struggled to recover. Entire trade routes collapsed. Civilizations starved. Refugee populations spread across ruined systems. But the psychological damage cut deepest. Dominion veterans woke screaming from nightmares about human boarding parties emerging through smoke-filled corridors. Children feared hearing emergency broadcasts because every transmission reminded them of the war. Military academies across neutral systems completely rewrote their doctrines. Not to imitate humanity. To avoid ever fighting them. Because one lesson had become undeniable. Humans were not the strongest species in peaceful times. But in total war, they became something else entirely. Something terrifying. Years later, on a rebuilt Dominion world, an old survivor stood before a classroom filled with young students who had never seen the war themselves. One child raised a hand nervously. Why didn't humanity destroy us when they had the chance? The old survivor stared silently at the memorial wall nearby. Millions of names carved into black stone. Human, Dominion, civilian, soldier, all together. Finally he answered quietly. Because humanity never wanted total war. The students looked confused. But they started destroying planets. They used terror tactics. They became monsters. The old survivor closed his eyes briefly. Yes, he whispered. Because we taught them they had to. Silence filled the classroom. Then the old man walked toward the massive memorial window overlooking the city beyond. Rebuilt towers now stood where fires once burned. Children played beneath skies once filled with warships. Peace had returned. Fragile. Temporary. Bought with unimaginable suffering. The survivor looked upward toward the stars. We spent centuries believing humans were peaceful because they were soft, he said quietly. His reflection stared back at him in the glass. But humans are peaceful because they know exactly how terrible they can become. Far beyond civilized space, hidden deep within dark regions untouched since the war, enormous human fleets still drifted silently in classified sectors. Waiting, watching, prepared. Not because humanity desired conquest, but because humanity no longer trusted the galaxy to remain peaceful forever. And neither did anyone else. The final classified Dominion report about the war was sealed for 1,000 years. Its final sentence became the single most feared line in galactic history. Nothing is more dangerous than a peaceful species that has finally decided there is nothing left to lose. And after the Human Dominion War, the galaxy made sure humanity never had to make that decision again.